share in this knowledge share a little bit later on in an asynchronous fashion. Before I introduce Dr. Jamison, our incoming superintendent here at MRH, I just wanted to take a brief moment and talk about the journey that led us here and the purpose of some of these town halls, which is really about sharing community and getting to know one another a little bit more. Last year, 2020 brought a number of things, including as we continue to live through an unprecedented pandemic, the Board of Education took on the important task of finding a new leader for MRH and to fill Dr. Karen Hall's superintendent position as she retires at the end of the school year. We persevered through that, knowing how important that was to our community, and hired HYA, a search firm, to help us in that process, who's very experienced in finding leaders in education across the country and filling those positions. And we engaged in a nationwide search to look for the new superintendent to lead our district forward. We were thrilled and happy to find Dr. Benita Jamison right here in our region, actually, having been doing much of the work that's near and dear to the heart of MRH. And I think she immediately stood out in the interview process as someone that has knowledge and expertise and experience as a leader in her field, but also the passion and the spirit, which I think you'll really come to learn about today as she shares her journey to what brought her here to MRH. One of the things that really stood out for me and the rest of the board was Dr. Jamison was not looking for a job. She was really looking for a home and a place to join, a family, if you will, which is really important, I think, to the spirit of this community. She has stepped up and doesn't really officially start until this summer, but has been working to hit the ground running and meeting with her administration, the staff, having town halls like this. And this is an opportunity now to reach out to the broader MRH community and get to know her, and for her to get to know all of you. So we're very excited to have her. We're thrilled that our process led her to us, and that she has taken on and accepted the role to be the new superintendent here at MRH. And I think you'll be really thrilled to learn about her journey and get to know her a little bit more going forward. So with that, let me turn it over to Dr. Benita Jamison, and we'll have some questions after.
Thank you, Francis. Good morning, everyone. I am excited to have an opportunity to spend some time with you today and look forward to seeing all of you in person, safely, of course. This will be one of many opportunities for us to connect, and I want to thank our president, Herndon Miller, and the Maplewood Richmond Heights Board of Education for allowing me the opportunity to serve our students, our families, staff, and the community. My goal today, as shared, is to share with you a little bit about who I am, as well as to answer any questions that you may have. I also believe that it's critical for me to give voice to the impact of what is now being referred to as the twin pandemic, the impact of COVID-19 on our community, coupled with systemic racism, has impacted us all in various ways. I recognize we need time to heal, we need time to rebuild, and I am committed to partnering with our families and our community in Maplewood Richmond Heights through this process. So before we get started, one thing you will learn about me is that I'm very quirky, and I love team building activities because relationships underpin any work that we do. So this is called a chat bomb. Before you drop your answer in the chat and hit enter, what I would like for you to do is to type your name, your child or children's school, and your child or children's favorite movie or book. But don't hit enter. And when I say go, you'll submit all of your responses in the chat at the same time, and you'll begin to see them populate, which is the chat bomb. So I'll give you a second to type your name, your child's or children's school, and their favorite movie or book. All right, press enter. I see Avengers, Divergent, awesome. Any others? Ghost. My daughter Kennedy's favorite book is It by Stephen King. And my son loves Pete the Cat. He's outgrown those, so we have gifted those. But his new favorite book is The Boxcar Children. And I actually read that when I was in elementary school. So it's exciting to see him resurface those books that I would find to be a classic. So just a little bit about who I am. I could have put a lot of bullet points on the screen, but I think that there is power in the narrative. And I believe that this is a snapshot of who I am. And so family is very important to me. And now that I am in the capacity of superintendent for MRH, you are now a part of my family. Your children are a part of my family. So the picture in the very far right-hand corner is baby Jamison and my aunt, Marianne Bright. And she serves as the beacon of light of our family, but also is that person who will tell me when I'm right, but also will tell me when I'm wrong. And I appreciate that because we all need someone to be that extra voice and that conscious for you. The picture above that is actually, oh, there we go. The picture above that is actually my high school senior picture. I graduated from Valley Park High School, and it was there where I nurtured my passion and understanding for relationships based on the small school environment that I experienced. We had 36 students in our graduating class. And so for me, I'm still connected. I talked to my basketball coach, Brent Brexton. I still talk to the former superintendent, and I do have a relationship now with the current superintendent, Tim Dilg. The picture next to that is a picture of a bridal shower that I did. I am very crafty. I do event planning. I do baby showers and things like that. And that's a way for me to take my hidden talents and be of service and support others. During the pandemic, I have not done a lot of those events, but I wanted to share that those are things that I actually enjoy. I am also an outdoors person. So I go canoeing with my children, which you'll see here in a bit. And I'm actually going on the canoeing trip with the middle school on Thursday. So I'm excited to experience that. I'll let you know how that goes. But I do like to get outdoors. I do like to hike and I like to jog. And it helps me to create a balance to ensure that my cup is half full when I'm coming into work and that I'm not pouring from an empty cup. I believe that partnerships are important. That includes tapping into the talents of our parents. The picture above is a picture of me and the KPMG bunny. So I do work to develop partnerships. In this particular picture, we had books donated to students in one of the buildings where I led. The picture here is just another picture of me when I was younger. I thought it was cute and it showed a little bit of my character. And then the picture to the left is actually me in a Spider-Man costume. I do believe in having fun, but also being a part of developing community. And that's something that drew me into MRH, particularly around opening day. So I like the idea of dressing up and really being a part of a community and supporting each other. So I thought that picture was important to share. And then the bottom picture is one of the most difficult challenges in my life. When you start your dissertation, they say, don't have children, don't start a new job, don't do ... And I did all of those things, but I was able to come out on the other side. And that's a picture of me being hooded by my co-dissertation chair, Dr. Douglas and Dr. Dorner from the University of Missouri, Columbia. So these pictures tell you a little bit about who I am as a person and gives insight into not only my personal life, but I also want to share a little bit about my educational journey. I received my Bachelor's of Education degree from St. Louis University, my Education Specialist degree from University of Missouri, Columbia, and my doctorate from the University of Missouri, Columbia. And my focus was school structures that impact the academic and behavioral outcomes of adolescent Black boys. And so with those experiences, I've had an opportunity to lead in varying roles, both in large districts as well as small districts such as MRH. And some of the positions that I've held, I've been a teacher at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So it allows me to see the bookends from the elementary side all the way to the high school. In addition, I've been a principal in both the elementary and middle school setting. I've held the role of assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, as well as assistant superintendent of student services. In my current role as the executive director of integrated supports and accelerated learning, I supervise principals. I'm responsible for district-wide implementation of multi-tiered systems of support. And basically what that is if your children or your child has any concerns or challenges in the academic, behavior, or social emotional realm, I am able to ensure that they get the adequate supports that they need. So along with me, you are also inheriting my family. And so this is Team Jamison. What I will tell you is that, like you, I have experienced schooling during the pandemic, and I was elated when school started back. So let me start there. It was a challenge balancing a third grader with a high schooler and them being on very different ends of the spectrum. But I also will share that, like many of you, I have also experienced dealing with a child who has anxiety, a child who has mental health issues and things of that nature. So I do get it. I understand, and the supports that are needed from both the school end, but also for families and even wraparound services is at the heart of what I do. So I believe that a great teacher can change the life of a student. And so that teacher for me is Lisa Gross. She was my 4th grade teacher at Valley Park and also my 6th grade teacher at Valley Park. So I love the concept of looping. But what made me love her and value who she was that she always ensured that I maintained my dignity. And I was a very mischievous child in elementary school. I used to do some very interesting things, but I recall a time where I had an assignment. The assignment was supposed to go home to be signed, and I cut a signature off of a previously signed document, pasted it on there, and turned it in. Not once did she identify the fact that she knew I did it. She merely gave me another copy and said, take it home and have it signed. And so for me, that is what it's all about, developing relationships. And so as I think about my role as superintendent, it's supporting my cabinet members and ensuring that we are providing resources and support to staff so that they are able to support our children. So what do I believe? Our students, they are why we're here, and they are why we exist. Every decision that is being made is centered around ensuring that they have what they need, both academically, behaviorally, and from a social emotional standpoint. And so how do we ensure that? And so students first. And so you will find that as we begin to collaborate and spend time together, all of the questions that will be posed will be student-centered, because right now for me, this is my listening and learning phase to get to know you as parents, to get to know our community, to get to know our students and our staff. And then the other piece is principals are the key levers to improving outcomes for adults and students. And so as the superintendent and being responsible for hiring principals and developing principals, it's important that we have the right person in the seat so that they can support the adults who support your children. And then great teaching is the #1 key to student success. We have great things going on in MRH. We have a guaranteed professional development cycle. We ensure that the focus is on our metaphors. So now the work is, how do we take that foundation and build upon it to ensure that we're continuing to move forward into the next phase of MRH 3.0. And then the key that is really important is students are more likely to succeed when families are authentically engaged and involved. And a huge part of that is defining what engagement looks like for all of our stakeholder groups. So whether that's identifying what volunteerism looks like when you come into the school, ensuring that communication is sent in varying manners so that people can access it. So it might be a video, it might be an email, it might be a text message, but how are we engaging our families and how are we ensuring that they are a part of the community and an extension of our community? And then partnerships with the community extends learning and opportunities for students. One thing about our MRH community is that we have businesses and we have invested partners who want to support us. And so now the work begins to say, how do we evolve and develop partnerships in such a way so that our students have more access and that they are learning from the experts, which include our parents who have skills and talents that they can bring in and support as well. And then the last piece, which I talked about, is the role of relationships and collaboration. With any change, trust has to be developed, and that trust starts with relationships. And so, like I said before, this is just one opportunity for us to begin to connect, and we will have additional opportunities come June. By then, the hope is that we'll have more families vaccinated and that we can do some small gatherings that are socially distanced and safe so we can have some one-on-one interaction with each other. And lastly, I want to leave you with this quote. We can cultivate family engagement in 3 ways: by building relationships, by fostering communication, and by engaging in meaningful collaboration. So it's my hope that as we begin this journey together, will you join me as we look to grow our MRH community and have impact on our children, our staff, and our community? So that's what I have. At this time, I'm going to hand it back over to Francis, and we can jump into the questions that have been provided.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Jamison. And I really think that our community appreciates the personal and professional backgrounds from which you come. And that was a really eye-opening and very, very helpful overview. We do have a couple questions that were submitted by our couple community members. So I'm going to read them with comments as well and let Dr. Jamison respond. The first one comes from Dana Palubiak, who's actually also an educator. She's a 3rd grade teacher in the Brentwood School District. And her comment and question is as follows, and I'm going to just read it verbatim if that's okay. She writes, "Welcome, Dr. Jamison. We are so very happy to welcome you to the MRH community. It is a very special place and has provided my 3 children with excellent educational opportunities. My question is, are there plans in place to continue the dynamic programming offered to students? I love the metaphors for each school and that each school provides a unique experience for kids. Also, I am always interested in expanding the unique programming that prepares kids for life." Dr. Jamison, would you like to respond?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. So as you stated, I too enjoy the metaphors, and that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to MRH, because the aim around looking at school as a studio museum all the way through to the apprenticeship really says that we're focusing on the vertical articulation for learners, but also giving them exposure to content where they drive the learning and not necessarily the teacher being the facilitator of that learning. So we will continue with the work that's been done and then also look at ways to build upon that. So what might that look like? And so we talked about the bookend. So whether you're talking about school as studio or school as apprenticeship, how do we begin to think about career awareness in our smallest learners who are capable? And so I've walked the schools, I've met students, and they are advocates at a very young age. I met James at the ECC, and he was very outspoken and asked a lot of questions regarding why I was there, and then introduced me to his twin brother. So we know that they are capable of actually doing that, but it's how do we take that from school as apprenticeship and deconstruct it down so students begin to have some career awareness. And so as we think about it, it's awareness, it's exploration, it's preparation. So what does that look like? And so for me, we do have students who are able to pick up the phone and do mock interviews with professionals that are in the industry. We do have students who are able to do job shadowing. And so how do we build those systems so that that occurs even as early as the ECC? So it may not necessarily be a job shadow for our early childhood center students, but they may take a field experience to a veterinarian office because you have students who are interested in becoming veterinarians, and then they can develop questions to ask those individuals or having them to come in. So it's about exposing students to a variety of careers and connecting them with business partners. Again, we have many partners within our community that we can gain access to. And then also allowing students early on to identify their career interests. We know they will change over time. Even with my own son, he told me he wants to be a YouTuber. I think that's great. And then now he's saying he wants to build airplanes. So that shifts over time. And so recognizing that, we continue to iterate and prepare students and give students opportunities as they begin to shift, because that's what they do. And then the other piece of that is allowing students to take ownership, which we do that already. And so how do we put them at the center of these partnerships and then relate that back to the real world experience, back to the school and what they're doing in the classroom, because that's what it's all about. And so we are able to take some of that project-based learning experience, tie it into standards, and then connect that to career awareness and exploration, which includes job shadowing, mock interviews, and informational interviews. That can happen at varying levels.
Great, thank you, Dr. Jamison, appreciate that. One other question we received ahead of time came from Kim Gifford, who is a member of the Special School District Parents Advisory Council. And Kim writes or asks, Dr. Jamison, what is your experience working with students with disabilities, and how can you best support these students in your role as superintendent?
So I'll start with my own personal experience. I talked about, having children that either are dealing, my personal children who are coping with anxiety, have some mental health issues, attention deficit disorder. So the first piece is around advocacy. And so I'm starting there because as a parent, I needed to learn how to advocate for my own children. So in my professional world, that looks like providing support to our parents so that they are able to advocate for their children to ensure that their students are getting the resources and the support that they need. So my experience is vast. I think I mentioned that I've been the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, and in my current role, that is a lot of what I do. So from a systems level, looking at data, really drilling down to look at supports for students, whether it's behavior, academic, or social emotional learning, and then progress monitoring that. The other part of that is actually partnering with our special school district partners. I have had an opportunity to meet with Ben Gleason to gain insight into the work that we're doing in the district and then opportunities that might need to occur. And then I'm scheduled actually to meet with Dr. Keenan, who's the superintendent of special school district, to begin to talk about growing the partnership and using resources such as PETA, which is an arm in special school district that provides parent engagement around diversity and awareness. And so they are able to come into the district and provide professional development for parents so that we are growing their capacity as they seek to support students. But the other piece of that is ensuring that we are identifying the appropriate resources and how we do that, and then what accountability looks like once we put those resources in place. So whether it's looking at SEL curricula, interventions for students who might elope or need a little bit of extra support, I have a lot of experience with that as we think about interventions at each of those levels, which includes the partnerships through the Children's Service Fund. And I do know that we do have some of those partners working currently in the districts for students who may need counseling or other wraparound services, but it's about system development for me. And then also continuing to grow the partnership with special school district because they have a lot of resources and wealth of knowledge as a means to support students in the district.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that. Those were the submitted questions we received ahead of time, but I know, Dr. Jamison, you have, I think, on the screen an opportunity for people to continue to engage with you, outside of this chat and this discussion. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I too am a learner. So what the pandemic forced me to do is to begin to think about how to engage not only the principals that I supervise, but the groups that I lead. And so this is a Padlet that I created for our families and our stakeholders to drop in questions. It's completely anonymous, and I am committed to checking it. Sometimes I'm so eager to look. I check it several times during the day, so you're keeping me on my toes. But I do check it a few times during the day and I respond. And my responses are very authentic, but I know that our team, our families are eager to connect. And I thought that this was a very safe way and easy way for you to drop in your questions and for me to respond. So do know that no question is off limit. I've had a question from staff, because staff also has a Padlet. And which peanut butter do you prefer? With nuts, without? What question do you wish someone asked you? And then, even questions about, who in the past or, in the future would you have liked to have spoken to? And what would you tell, that person? So, and then I had some very serious questions around equity. So no question is off limits. So please feel free. They're completely anonymous, but I value your feedback, and hopefully this is an opportunity for us to continue to connect.
Thank you for that, and hopefully more opportunities coming forward in the next month or so, and obviously as soon as you formally get started on July 1. But there's a lot of work being done ahead of that start date. Ed, I guess I can turn it back over to you. I'm not seeing any additional questions, although we do have time, but there are outlets, it seems like, in which the community can certainly engage Dr. Jamison further. I just want to thank you, thank Dr. Jamison, to thank Roxana. We were also joined by President Brandy Herndon Miller, who's able to join us on this chat as well. Anything else I'm missing, Ed?
Just another opportunity tonight at 6 o'clock. I'm going to point out right now that apparently some people were asked for a passcode to join this meeting, others were not. That won't happen again tonight. I think I figured out what went wrong. But again, 6 o'clock this evening, another session with Dr. Jamison. I don't know if Brandy or Roxana can be there, but I'll be there, and I'm going to resend that link to all families. That's about it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you. Have a good
you.
rest of your day.